Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly pretty unusual personal philosophy for managing your mind. It comes from this unique document, and it's a whole system called compressing.
So let's just start with the central question this whole idea poses. And yeah, it's a little strange. Can you actually do more with less stress by thinking with your feet? I know, it sounds kind of out there, but this one idea is really at the core of the entire philosophy. It's designed to make you totally rethink where and how thinking even happens.
Okay, so what exactly is this system? Well, the main idea is called compressing, and it's basically a method for extreme mental multitasking. The goal is to take all the info you're getting while doing one thing and then instantly use it to push forward other related tasks. You can think of it like real-time mental leverage.
Now, to even try something like this, you can't just, try harder. The source argues that compressing demands a complete shift in your mindset. You have to build a totally new foundation for how you approach thinking itself.
And here it is, probably the most radical idea in the whole document. The idea is to delegate reflection to your feet, to reduce mental wearing and stress. It's such a weird image, right? But the purpose behind it is actually pretty clear: to offload that feeling of mental burnout from your brain to a different part of your body.
So how on earth is this supposed to work? The author's logic is this fascinating three-step mental model. First, it starts with a wild premise, that your brain's main job isn't even thinking, it's just communicating with your organs. Then from there, the idea is you consciously shift the sensation of thought down to your feet. This supposedly tricks your mind into freeing up cognitive horsepower. And the end result? This separation is meant to quiet all that mental noise, letting you act with focus and without stress. It's really just a mental trick to get you into a state of flow.
Okay, so how does this turn into something you can actually use? Well, the author doesn't suggest you apply this intense focus to everything all the time. Instead, they lay out two very different ways to operate. One for when you're a beginner, and another for when you're an expert.
And the contrast here is it's awesome. For beginners, the advice is to be somewhat lazy. Now, this isn't about slacking off. It's a strategy to help you avoid getting frustrated with really high expectations. It gives you permission to just play around, explore, and find new, creative ways of doing things. But once you're an expert, you flip the switch to what the author calls CR7 mode, named after the soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo. At this point, you know the goal, and the instruction is simple: 100% effort, using compressing in every single part of the task.
Right, but being able to switch between those modes and stay focused, that takes real discipline. So to get there, the author introduces another really personal strategy: developing an inner coach. And this inner coach gets a very specific name: father mode. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a bit of a provocative term, but it's meant to represent a very specific kind of internal guidance.
So what does father mode really mean? Well, it's not about gender. It's a metaphor for self-parenting. This inner coach is the part of you that holds you accountable, that makes sure your needs are met, and that guides you to act with good values and the right intentions. And this really gets to the heart of the author's point. It can be about creating that internal father figure that maybe you didn't have growing up.
And that brings us right to the core motivation. The author is very clear that this strategy is so important because in their own life, they had to build this internal structure for themselves. It's a way to consciously install the values and discipline that many people just absorb from strong parental figures when they're kids. So the key takeaway here is that this isn't just another productivity hack, it's a tool for personal development.
Okay, so this brings us to the final piece, the part that ties everything we've talked about together. After you've built the mindset and you've developed the discipline, what's the ultimate skill you're actually trying to master with all this?
To get this, just think about what true expertise looks like. How does a footballer just see the perfect pass? Or a farmer just know a cow's weight by looking at it? Or a researcher who can scan a super dense report in just a few moments? What do all those people have in common?
The answer, according to this philosophy, is a skill they call reading and interpretation. It's this ability to instantly read a situation, figure out the goal, and pull together all your experience and imagination to pick the perfect next move. It's expert intuition.
But here's the thing, it's not magic. It's a skill you can build, and there's a clear process.
First, you need a solid plan, a strategy. Then, you practice. A lot. You practice relentlessly to build that raw skill. And while you're practicing, you're constantly testing what works and what doesn't. And finally, you automate it. You turn that successful approach from a conscious effort into an unconscious automatic habit.
So if there's a path, why do so many of us struggle with this? The author points out this really common trap that we all fall into. We either get completely lost in the tiny details of every single step and we lose sight of the big picture, or we do the opposite. We fixate only on that final goal, get overwhelmed, and then we can't execute the steps to even get there. And this leads us to the final, really powerful metaphor that just ties this whole philosophy together. The author writes that this skill of reading and interpretation should be like having a mental camera with a killer zoom lens. It has to let you get those super detailed animal close-ups, those are the individual steps, but also let you pull way back to see the best landscapes, that's the big picture. The ability to just fluidly zoom in and out between the detail and the goal, that is the true sign of mastery. And the question it leaves us with is, how good is your mental camera?